I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Jelpy and Ghosty and Tubi. 100,000 subscribers.
100,000 subs. Shout out to the True Cult for your contribution to the war effort. We really appreciate you. Damon Sage, Alec. Like, literally, Damon Sage and Alec are the only ones that I know from True Cult. They're like the most mysterious. Like, seriously, have you talked to anybody else that's in True Cult? It's unbelievable.
Where's Peter?
Peter's not True Cult. I don't know where Peter is. He's not
some of
True
them
Cult.
float all over the place.
Yeah, some of them are floaters. Okay, what are we talking about? What we're talking about, dear listener, are alliances. So, there are multiple ways to get your song listened to. My favorite way is the community options. $1 at the gate gets you a ticket into Patreon, and then you get to you get recruited by team leaders or alliance leaders, and then you get down the rabbit hole.
Ultimately, you pick which one you want to be recruited to.
Yeah. I mean, it's your obviously it's your pick. They pull the points together and they get songs. That's the way they get songs done systematically. Mm-hmm. So if you can go there and you make your case, then it happens for you. So that's what happens. The other way to do it is a fast pass option or the partner tier option. $125 gets you jump straight to the head of the line.
Mm-hmm. That's on Patreon as well. Or you can go through our PayPal, vinandsorimerch@gmail.com.
Yep.
If you've done it with us 3 times, it doesn't have to be 3 times.
$75 rate?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be 3 times in a row or anything like that. Like, if you've done it 3 times over the course of time with us, then you can just automatically go through the PayPal option and just send the $75 with your song, and then you're grandfathered in. So don't worry about that.
Like you, Armando. Okay, so this is Seeds of the Suffering. Now, are they a black metal band? The True Cult, they're usually the black metal...
Death metal. Legends.
These guys are legends. Okay, so Suffocation. The name of the album is Effigy of the Forgotten. It's another really good little title. For timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori. The channel on that channel has basically been CV19 free. Everybody and their mother every 2 seconds is talking about CV19, so I'm just not going to do it. I think there's other things going on in the world, and plus everybody wants to get their minds off of stuff. That's why at 1:34 a.m. we are recording to make sure that you guys have something to look at and have fun with.
Yep.
Okay, and also
escape.
We're going to be doing some firesides. Probably by the time you're watching this, a fireside will be going on. So
could be, yeah.
We'll see, inshallah. We'll see. Seeds of the Suffering, Suffocation, let's go.
Go. Whoa, didn't waste any time.
I get it.
No idea where we are. I literally couldn't follow it until the very end.
Lyrically, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only thing that annoys me a little bit about songs like this is because lyrically he's saying some really cool stuff.
Yeah, it's so hard to like
but
follow
it's hard to follow. But you know, that stuff's on a scale. You know what I mean? Like Slipknot. When I first heard Slipknot, it was like that because I'd never heard metal like that before.
Okay.
So when I first heard the Slipknot record, like I called my friend. He's like, "Yo, what was it?" And I was like, "I don't know, man." Like, because like I just wasn't acclimated to that type of, and I couldn't follow it along. I was used to Korn. Korn, like pretty much everything is legible unless you know he's doing
he's doing his fake.
You know, yeah. You know what I mean? But like other than that, like I could completely hear it. So initially I didn't like Slipknot because I didn't know what he was saying. But then you know once
I don't even understand how somebody can not like Slipknot.
Well, once you got into when you listened to it, we had the lyrics up there.
Right. Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, yo, I don't know what the guy's saying. But then once I get the lyrics and I put it with the middle, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, Pinky. I'm angry. Come mess with me, please. I'll harm you. I'll harm you. That was back in the day. I'm past this now. I'm not trying to harm anybody.
Don't push it too far with his family.
Just the girls. Just the girls. Don't do anything dumb with the girls. And inshallah, we can all be in peace.
Live in
inshallah.
peace.
So yeah, I hear what you're
like
saying.
Going around in these spiral circle things, and then it was like it was like going across. It was funny what they like did musically. It was interesting.
Man, sonically, this thing was like again.
It was heavy.
Again, Slipknot. Like I remember the very first. It was Tattoo the Earth. The first time I saw Slipknot live, and by like the third song, they only had like 5 songs, but by like the third song. Corey was like, you guys tired? You guys can't be tired. Oh, we were like done.
Really?
It was like 85 degrees. It was in the middle of summer, and we were just going because especially on the first record, from start to finish, it was like there was no breaks, nothing. Especially Sick, you know, they opened up.
It was so fun when we were rocking out at that concert. Oh my gosh, that was one of my favorite times.
Yeah, but this is one of those songs where it'd be like, you play this live, man, like. Because from start to there's no let up, there's no nothing. It's just bang, bang,
the
bang,
whole time.
Bang, bang,
if you look at the sound bar that comes across the screen because we have it in iMovie, like you look at that sound bar and it didn't move. Look at it; it's just steady the whole time. Yeah. I was like, whoa! Like there's no like dip downs. It's like hardcore whole time.
This is like hardcore, heavy music like that you can't. And you know what's interesting too with the solos, like. Half of it was like he was attempting to sound very chaotic and disordered, but there was a lot of rhyme and reason to that solo. And there was even some melodious parts to that solo as well. The solo. He kind of had that Kerry King-ish, Rain and Blood type of like chaotic solo feel, but
I had no idea when the solo was happening.
This one was the solo was way more pronounced, and it was very definitional, and it kept a good balance of musicianship and like. Perceived chaos that I think, you know, maybe Kerry King was going for in the Rain and Blood song, but I don't think he necessarily accomplished.
I feel like this might sound kind of insulting. I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I felt like somebody stuffed me in a dryer and turned it on.
100%. 100%. I usually don't like, I remember like for the 4 seconds I was in a band, and the drummer was like the highest talent, like no question.
Yeah.
The highest talent in the band. And I'd been listening to a lot of Lamb of God, and that's when I was playing like 5-6 hours a day. I listened to a ton of Lamb of God, so all of my riffs were just bootleg Lamb of God riffs, but I loved them. So I get in there, and he puts the sticks down, he goes, okay, we can't have a song with 19 different riffs. He's like, it's like a kid who writes a story, and you win one paragraph you're in a spaceship, and then the next paragraph you're underwater, and so ever since then, like anytime somebody like riff and doesn't have any transitions, I'm like, I generally don't like it, but they were just like, okay, here's 30 seconds of this ridiculousness, here's another one, and it was good. I liked it.
See, they all kind of well, no, I actually could see some separation in there, but like part of it was all like just like, together, and then you're right though. I did notice the changes. I noticed when it was spiraling around, and when it was The vocal style, though, I wasn't a fan of the vocal style.
Wasn't a fan of the vocal style, but I feel like I could get acclimated, especially once I had the lyrics memorized. That's something that's like really people don't understand in metal. I don't think is like sometimes even the lyrics can be heavy.
Oh yeah.
Because the lyrics can incite you.
Yeah.
To
absolutely
violence.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, the lyrics are heavy. So in that sense, like understanding the lyrics or knowing the lyrics are just as important as hearing the riffage.
Yep.
So that's the only thing. But like I said, once we memorize the words, I'm sure it would be less of an issue. Lies, deceitful words of impatience, futile words of evasion. The gods that have once spoken to me have abandoned me to my predestined state, a state in which there are no words, is no language, only the language of the endless suffering.
Jeez.
Suffering that brings me to appreciate my newfound existence, one that spawns forth a new being, a being in which there is no appreciation for his fellow man to see, hatred and remorse unto those who have punished me, punishment too cold to see. I don't see, one that I have once created, forced to change. I don't need the path of abomination of all things, for now I am a seed that will one day set forth a new race, one that will cleanse my soul, anticipation of the weak-minded fools, one that my once beloved gods will not recognize, race which breeds off the suffering as immortals cry out.
Feeds off the suffering.
For their newfound God, the race goes strong until the day of judgment, the race goes strong until the day. I think...
So out of his suffering was going to come an entirely new race?
Of sociopaths, basically. Because it says, it spawns forth a new being, a being which there is no appreciation for his fellow man.
Wow.
So, he, the gods that once spoke to me, I think maybe it's like...
That's sad.
It might be, the Christian God or whatever that tells you to care about your fellow man and love your neighbor and you're your brother's keeper. So, if he's saying that he's abandoning that, then, And the other thing is I think when he talks about endless suffering, that's usually the concept of hell. Mm-hmm. And I think what he's saying is that basically part of him died and now he's going through like a living hell. And then that suffering, the hell that he went through, turned him into a person who doesn't really care much about, his fellow man and yada, yada, yada. Which I think is a little bit different from sociopathy. Sociopathy is like, you don't necessarily even have to have something bad happen to you. You just do not care. You don't care. And there's people in our current, seats in Laban that are like that.
Yep.
Yeah, go vote.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It was like 2 days before, it was like, don't stay in groups. This is last week's primary, I think, was don't stay in groups of more than 50 people. And yet these freaking people are telling us to go out and vote because they want to win so bad. Mm-hmm. So I guarantee you, like somebody has died because of that bullshit. So, yeah, I think so I understand where he's coming from because I've seen a lot of people go through hell on earth and it has made them bitter people.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
hard to...
Yeah.
Once you start letting the bitterness come in, it's... Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to stop it. And then it kind of overtakes you because the bitterness makes you feel a sense of control or a sense of power over the situation.
100%.
You feel better when you're bitter, but then over time, then you begin to taste the bitterness of the bitter.
Yeah.
But it takes time to even realize it. And I don't know necessarily if people all the time realize I am so friggin' miserable because of my bitterness.
Yeah.
I think they just feel miserable and they don't know why. But they've harbored...
Or they blame the person that made them bitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
but if you harbor hate, you harbor unforgiveness, like, you can call it, forcing you to follow the God of the Bible or something, but that's no joke. That's something, like, there's some stuff in the Bible that I'm like, well, I see where you're coming from, but... Like, homosexuality is kind of like one of those things where I'm like, I understand why, God is saying it, but at the same time, I'm like, but I don't...
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, like, harboring bitterness, I'm like, I don't care who you are. Like, that's going to destroy you, start to finish. Like, you don't have to follow any type of religion. Like, do whatever the hell you want. But if you harbor your bitterness, it will destroy you. It will suck the friggin' fun out of everything.
Yeah.
It really, really will.
Yeah. Yeah. And Jesus tells this parable, and at the end of the parable, he basically says, "You will not escape prison until you have paid the last penny."
Yep.
And the context was unforgiveness.
Yep.
And the concept, especially after hanging out with C.S. Lewis for a while, is that people put themselves in their own prison, man. Mm-hmm. And like, you cannot control what a person has done to you. You can only control how you respond to it. Mm-hmm. And so, I remember, because I was hanging out with Moses most of the time, reading my Bible. I didn't realize, it took me a while, like literally years to finally look, let me see what Jesus has to say about this stuff. And I just remember being like, okay, like forgive people. Yeah. I was like, okay, that's how you're a good person. Mm-hmm. Like, just be a good person. Forgive people. That's what Jesus wants us to do. God forgave us, yada, yada. But the more the more you grow up and you see certain situations, the more I realize that God has sort of angled his commandments with the best of all possible worlds for a human being living in a sinful world. And so when he tells you to turn the other cheek, it's because it's not only because you're being such a pious person, it's also because somebody has to stop the cycle of violence. Right? And then when he tells us to forgive and make sure that we forgive, like, that's mostly for you, like, then there's been
an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind.
A lot of really good analogies, like, you're holding on to a burning coal, and so, like, you don't hurt the coal when you hold on to the coal, you just hurt your hand, And so there's lots of ways to deal with the hell that people go through, and I everybody, I can understand this, though.
Oh, absolutely.
I can understand this feeling. If somebody put you through a bunch of suffering and a lot of pain, especially, here's the other thing, especially if the person gets away with it, right? That's the worst. Like, somebody did horrible things to you, and then, like, in the natural, you're looking, it's like, yo, they got away with everything. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes people hold on to bitterness because they're like, yo, if I let this go, or if I forgive this person, I am agreeing with the whole world that was okay. Yeah. And it's not.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's not. It's just about going on with your life. And I know, like, I'm a very extreme example of that. Like, people say dumb shit on Facebook, and I have a bit to rights. Mm-hmm. I'm just not going to publish it. Mm-hmm. I'm just not going to do it, because, I just want to move forward. I just want to keep going forward in my life and focusing on the good that's in my life, obviously, and all that. But I definitely see where, hatred and remorse unto those who have punished me. Yep. Punishment too cold to see. It's unspeakable what happened to this guy. See. I don't see. And
what do you think that means? Punishment too cold to see, like. Do you think it's that people turn because it's so horrible what he's been through? Or do you think that...
Yeah.
Or do you...
I think it's probably like a lot of people say this, like, they could handle a physical altercation more than they could, the mental stuff or the emotional stuff. So I think when he says, like, too cold to see, it's like beyond the physical, it's into the metaphysical, which is extremely destructive, which turns people into people like this. I don't think he's like, I think he's incarnating into a person with this mindset. I don't think he's promoting it. I don't think he's saying it's the right thing. It's just when you're stuck with these emotions, especially if you don't have biblical categories or psychological categories to talk about what unforgiveness does, and that's the only thing you can do. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And I think that a lot of times, It's funny because, like, when you're a kid, I mean, I can't speak for everybody's situation, but I feel like that when you're a kid, parents talk about, forgiveness and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're an evangelical kid, for sure.
Yeah, but as an adult, that's not really... That doesn't seem like that's a big primer. It doesn't seem like they put a lot of focus on that. Like, as a kid, you should forgive everything that happens to you, but as an adult, that's not what you see from the adults around,
Yeah, well, a lot of parents tell their kids that, not because they're worried about Christian character, it's because it makes the household a lot more peaceful if the kids aren't fighting.
Yeah.
That's really what it's about. I mean, that's the way I see it anyway.
Yeah.
And then he says forced to change, which is
No, wait, so he said I don't see. Punishment too cold to see, I don't see. What is he saying? He doesn't see the punish. I mean, he sees it, Or is he saying it's blinding him because it's so
Right.
it's so horrible?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's where he was going.
So.
And, he talks, and the name of the record is, the seed of what? Seed of suffering.
Yeah.
And I think that line right here, for I am now a seed that will one day set forth a new race. I think that is such an important line because people believe, because especially in the Western, especially in the American world, like this radical individualism.
Yeah.
So people believe that you can go off and hurt one person and it's just on them. What he's saying is, no, that made me into a certain type of seed, and that seed is going to germinate and raise up a whole group of people. And I've seen that happen, where they get one very bitter person, and then they make everybody else around them bitter, and they all take part in the jihad. They have no idea anything that's going on, but they're taking part in the jihad, and they're like across the board without exception, miserable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, you got to be careful about, who you hurt, or not necessarily who you hurt, because that's impossible. Like, but this guy's not talking about like a one-off, like you made a mistake. Like this is like, to me, looks like constant abuse, to where the person's like been pushed past the tipping point.
Yeah.
And then he's also saying there's going to be more people. Which is, when I listen to like between the lines in the media about this bailout, and it's basically the largest sort of scam in the history of the world as far as transferring wealth to a very, very small group of people and then giving us a $1,200 cutback. And I was listening to a guy yesterday, and he's like, man, when these people figure this out, God help us. Like when they really figure out what happened. Because you had Occupy Wall Street, after the whole 2008 thing, and that was like relatively peaceful. But I think if this happens again, especially if people start losing houses and all that, like it's very, very possible that stuff could get really hectic. So, now a seed that will one day set forth a new race is a very ominous statement, and it's truer than this guy realizes. Like, this is like a really good peek into human nature.
It's interesting because he said that will one day cleanse my soul. So he recognizes that there is something in his soul that needs cleansing, and he thinks that once he sets forth a new race, that's what will cleanse him.
Yeah.
I always find it fascinating when people recognize that there is cleansing that needs to take place.
Yeah, but I don't think the cleansing that he feels is necessary has to do with his personal sin. It looks like he's talking about what's being done to him, which, to your point, still, those are still biblical categories of, why we need to be saved. It's not only our sin, but it's also the sin that has done to us that then has a deleterious effect on our life and the life of the people around us.
I mean, I'm just pointing out that I'm thinking that he's saying there's, like I said, there's like a heaviness or like a darkness that you feel 100%, inside. And so he's saying I need to be cleansed of that, and I will be cleansed that when I set forth the new race from the seed that I become because of all this stuff. Right,
which I think he's going to raise up a new seed of also destructive people who don't care. And so when he sees them unleashed, then he'll feel better.
Well, I think that the fact that that they don't care is more of a survival mechanism.
Right.
Because he probably feels like if I didn't care, then I wouldn't feel the pain that I feel. But because I do care, that's why I feel pain, and that's how this evil has really enveloped me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's why I don't, that stuff, I don't even respond to it or whatever, because I'm just too proud to even waste my time on it. I'm just not gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that they're not worth anything, because they're in the image of God, obviously. But as far as me and them goes, it would be a waste because it's not going anywhere. What do you give the song?
Lyrically, I really liked it. Vocally, I didn't. Instrumentally, I did. So, 8.4.
This is going to be 9.3 for me. Just crazy, crazy heavy. I hope True Cult does a part 2 to this band, because I want to see if that is...
What happens to the man? Did he make his way out?
if that is just how they play, if that is how their songs are, like, good night. that's a band that I wish I would have seen live then if that's the case.
Yeah.
So I want to know, dear listener, is the exception or the rule? There you are. Take care of each other. Vin out.
Sorry, Al.
Gone.